About a century ago, when the Spanish flu devastated the globe, along with all of the lives it swept away, it also swept away a lot of the cherished funeral rituals and traditions of the time all over the world. And we're there again. COVID-19 is causing huge disruption to our expectations and our hopes and our plans for the kind of goodbyes we want to say to our loved ones, whether that's before they die as they are lying sick in hospital in physical isolation, or whether that's for the send-off that we're able to give to them in remembering their lives and in celebrating them. We're unable to attend funerals. We're unable to carry out plans that the person might have told us about before they died, and that is incredibly difficult. I'm Elaine Kasket. I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm the author of All the Ghosts in the Machine, The Digital Afterlife of Your Personal Data, and I'm also a member of the British Psychological Society's COVID-19 Bereavement Task Force. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this really difficult stage of dying and grieving during COVID-19 and how technology might be able to help. In April of 2020, pediatrician Dr. Sebastian Yuen's father died of COVID-19, and his family were not able to be with him. But the brilliant NHS staff gave him their physical presence, and they did something just as important. They set up a video call for Alex, Sebastian's father, and Sebastian and other members of the family. And speaking to the BBC, Dr. Yuen said, "It was really rich. It was really real. He was weak, but we connected as a family. So often there'd be 3 or 4 of us on the telephone on a group video call, and we could speak with each other and comfort each other and make plans. We felt together," which is, and then he said, "I'd never really experienced that before." There's a lot of evidence, both in people's stories and in the research, to show that online communication, online interaction can actually be quite good at a number of things when we can't be there. It's effective at establishing and maintaining intimacy and a feeling of deep relationship. It can be effective at giving and receiving social support. But a lot of us feel skeptical about that. We're not quite so sure about the validity or the realness of online interaction. And part of that is from not being accustomed to it for many of us. But it's also at points when we're under high stress and all we want to be is be physically with a person, and we're frustrated by our inability to be there. We lose some of our curiosity and flexibility about what might be possible to do. This is an extraordinary situation where we need to bring all of that creativity and flexibility to bear. Wherever it's important, wherever it's desired, investigate whether medical staff can facilitate setting up a remote call with a patient with COVID-19 who is in hospital and who can't be visited. It could make all the difference for both the family and for the person who's ill. For a number of years now, death and the digital have been coming together in a variety of new and often strange feeling ways. But the kinds of things that seemed strange or a bit fringe not too long ago are now becoming things that are quite necessary in order for people to grieve and to carry out rituals associated with death and dying. For example, live streaming funerals or people attending funerals or memorial services from far away with something live streamed on Facebook or some other platform is something that is now not just an occasional thing, but maybe a typical thing for the duration of coronavirus and COVID-19 deaths. Actual Larger scale gatherings of mourners are occurring on webinar and video conferencing platforms like Zoom, where because we associate these kinds of platforms with business meetings, this translation into a more emotional sphere can feel like quite a strange idea. But it isn't the platform that determines what kind of gathering happens. It's the intention and the spirit and the creativity and the will of the people organizing the gathering and attending the gathering. And there are many quite beautiful and moving rituals that I have seen and that can happen on online platforms like Zoom, which can be attended by hundreds of people. You need only search for virtual choir to access incredible pieces of music that have been contributed to by people from all over the world who are not in the same place at the same time. When there is a large-scale funeral, a memorial gathering happening on a platform like one of these, it is always a good idea to have a technologically knowledgeable person organizing the meeting as it proceeds in its various steps, ensuring transitions are smooth and so forth, and for there to be a clear plan ahead of time about the sequence of steps. If that is organized in that way, it is possible to have a real feeling of community and togetherness, even at a moment when people can't be in the same physical space. As long as human beings and communities have existed, ritual has probably existed too. Rituals are very important to us. We use them to mark all sorts of moments of significance and of transition. And at this point, as I mentioned, a lot of our cherished and familiar rituals are being challenged or disrupted or made impossible. Rituals, as long as they've been here, have had to adapt and change to suit the evolving situation, the evolving context. The important thing is not necessarily the exact form or the exact steps of the ritual. In situations where it simply cannot be something that can be particularly difficult when there is a religious ritual happening or when the person has been very specific about what they wanted to happen after they died. But even religious leaders right now are showing great flexibility and adapting and advising people that they need to hold existing rituals lightly and to think about how they can preserve the essential spirit of the moment for conducting a ritual. For example, some rabbis have been advising that for the Seder dinner, it is okay at the moment to use technology platforms like Zoom so that grandparents can watch their children recite the 4 questions. That is a tradition of Seder dinner. Technology at the Seder table is not something that's been smiled upon in the past, but it's recognized that for this context, the principle and the essence is more important. Be as flexible as you can. Hold on to the essence of what feels important in honoring or celebrating someone. Know that when the context changes and contact with others once again becomes possible, that you can have further observances then, and that you can get what you need at that time. The delay might not be what anybody expected or wanted, but in moments like this, the more you can focus on what you can control, the better off you'll be. For a while now, technology has been part of the new normal, of death and dying and bereavement. With COVID-19, it's accelerated that trend. There are so many ways in which technology can help us at various points during the death and dying and bereavement process, whether that's helping connect the dying to their faraway loved ones who aren't able to physically visit, or whether that's holding a really meaningful and moving funeral or memorial ritual on an online platform, or whether that's using a persistent digital presence of the person after they've died to connect with and feel a sense of a continuing bond. Technology and death go together more than ever now that we have COVID-19. This is not something that we need to be afraid of, but something that if we can embrace it and be as creative as possible to it, we can bend it to our needs and our will and our purposes, so that at the very least, we can use technology as a stopgap between now and the point that we get to another brighter day when we can get back to some of the rituals and the contact that is most familiar and most important to us as human beings.